Welcome back. The number of people who disapprove of the way President Trump is handling his job has climbed to the highest point in his presidency. That's according to the latest Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll. They write 62% say they disapprove of the way Trump has handled his job in the Oval Office, compared to 37% who approve, which is down 2 points from February. Meanwhile, 65% disapprove of the way Trump is handling the overall economy, which is down 7 points from 3 months ago. 70% of those polled who disapprove of how the president is handling inflation and the rising cost of living, too. Trump's ratings on other issues also remain low, with more than 60% disapproving of the president's handling of the war with Iran, relations with American U.S. allies, and also taxes. When it comes to the upcoming midterms, on a generic U.S. House ballot, those polled were leaning toward picking a Democrat over a Republican by 5 points. It's a fascinating margin with big implications. Joining us now, author, columnist, and conservative writer Matt Lewis. Matt, you've talked in a new piece for the LA Times. You write that Trump had a moment after the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner to refocus his rhetoric on issues that are important to the American people. And instead, he chose to focus the moment on building a ballroom. And I think the political question is, why? What does that earn him?
Right. Well, that's exactly right. I think that there was a little bit of goodwill after this, an opportunity. I mean, Trump has had many of these opportunities. He never takes them, by the way. But there was an opportunity to sort of cast himself as a victim and maybe do a reset. Why would he want to do a reset? Well, his approval rating is like 33% or whatever, depending on the poll you look at. So it could have been an opportunity. But instead, what does he do? He focuses on a ballroom and then later revenge, going after his political enemies or adversaries. And I think that's simply because these are his passion projects. These are the things that actually excite him and motivate him. He loves the ballroom, so why not make the attempted shooting, the White House Correspondents' Dinner chaos about the need for a ballroom? Logic be damned. And then why not go after your rivals? The problem is that the American people don't really care about those things. They don't really want a ballroom. They don't really want to go after James Comey or whoever. What they want is for gas prices to come down and for costs overall to come down. And I think if you look at that polling, it's not a surprise to me that it really correlates. Donald Trump's approval ratings very much correlate with Donald Trump's approval as it specifically pertains to the economy.
I take the point that these are the comfort issues, and I think that your explanation is probably right about why he's returning to them, even as his presidency hits an approval low point. But he's also someone who loves to say how much he's winning. And when you look ahead to the midterms, generic ballots that show Democrats regularly with 5-6 points in the lead, again, generic ballot, but still it translates to the way that these campaigns will be run. I mean, what do you think that a normal White House would be doing at this point? Because when you look at Iran, there's even a split among Republicans. You've got the Wall Street Journal editorial board over the weekend saying basically stay the course, finish the job, and MAGA folks saying we didn't want this job to exist in the first place. So there's even splinters there.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure a normal president. We've had a lot of presidents flip-flop. We've had a lot of presidents get involved in adventurism in the Middle East. I'm not sure that any of them have turned this quickly without a precipitating event. You know, 9/11 happens. Well, all of a sudden the world's different. It still takes us like a year to build up to go and to get this international coalition together to go into Iraq. So I'm not sure a normal president would have gone into Iran as weirdly and surprisingly as the way that Donald Trump did. But let's just assume that you dropped a normal politician in this moment, and now they're looking at polls and they've got the midterms staring down at them. What would you do? Well, I think one thing that you might actually do is focus on bringing down costs in the economy, at least rhetorically. At least don't talk about ballrooms and revenge. At least start talking about bringing costs down. And I think part of that would be you would have to admit a certain amount of culpability, you would also blame the last guy, of course, but you would say, like, things haven't turned around as quickly as we thought. We are focused 100% on the economy, on bringing down prices. We've heard you. We've heard you. And Trump can't bring himself to ever do that. So the thing that you would do to fix this, or at least to mitigate the wave that is building, Trump just doesn't constitutionally within his heart, have the ability to do.
Yeah, small c constitutionally.
Yes.
I guess the question that I regularly ask myself as I watch the way Republicans react is, at what point do they realize that their political fates are different than the president's here in the upcoming midterm elections? And at what point do they diverge? I mean, what do you think that would even look like at this point?
It is such a squeeze on Republicans because there have been so many, again, this is, so many, this just keeps repeating. Remember back when Donald Trump had the Access Hollywood thing, and a lot of people distanced themselves from him, and then they end up being punished and looking bad. There were people. So really, in a way, what we've learned is if you're a Republican and you decide to separate from Trump, maybe to save your own political life, he will then come after you later. And so it's really, he has put them in a lose-lose situation, which is kind of the opposite of what you would want from a political leader. I mean, someone like a Nancy Pelosi might actually say, hey, guys, go ahead, distance yourself from me. Maybe you even need to attack me. Do whatever it takes to save the majority. Donald Trump will never do that sort of servant leadership and cut people loose and free them to criticize him.
I believe the Pelosiism you're describing is when she would tell members, just win, baby, because that was the orthodoxy that guided her. We'll leave it there for now. Author, columnist, and conservative writer Matt Lewis, always great to have you. Thank you. And his latest piece for the Los Angeles Times is available to read online now. As always, it is must read.